And welcome to Just Saying episode 20. And my goodness, what a weekend we've had. I know what I was doing this weekend. It was all Rocket League all the time. How about you guys?
Well, I can't complain too much. You sound like you had a better weekend than I did. I worked, but I could hear your screams from my house, so I trust it went pretty well.
um,
Uh, f- for me, it wasn't so bad. I did stop by to come watch some of the watch party there, Greybeard. I know you saw my name at some point. So I
yes.
got to watch some of the Rocket League for about an hour or two before I had to go get some stuff done around the house. So
Well, and by all accounts, those who came by the stream and were getting drops, they were getting delicious drops all weekend. I'm sure. I'm sure they were getting nothing but dueling dragons and dicey wheels. But it was an incredible weekend, and we're going to get way deep into the weeds about it. But besides that, there's quite a bit going. And I guess in chat, I should say hello to Devour's dad. Vinko is here. Skytick, Sir Pegasus, Papito. And I see Ibn Fenter was here first, but he didn't. Oh, no. Calamatin was here first, but he didn't claim it. He just said, yo. So you're back to you. And how's it, guys? Good to have you all here. Now, to get things kicked off, before we get deep into the weeds on what happened this last weekend, I have asked someone to come and have a chat with us. And I've asked him because he, in my mind, represents a certain class of person, a class of SSA supporter, which is someone who is not South African, not from the region, but has become a supporter of the region and is always involved. He's in Discords, he's on Twitch, he's watching Twitch streams and in the chat, very involved and has become invested in the scene. And there are a lot of people like that. And I have become curious as to what that is, how that happens, because if we can bottle that, then maybe we can get more in their hundreds and thousands and bring more and more support to SSA. So the person I want to interview, you may know him if you've been on my streams a lot. He goes by on Twitter Leviathan, but on in Twitch chat he is Rumble Truck. So Rumble Truck, sir, hello, and how are you?
Hey, Graybeard, doing good, buddy. How are you? And Bromeo and Falcon, good to see and talk to you guys too.
So, and as you can tell immediately from the accent, he's probably not European. Somewhere near the middle of America, out of in Texas, in the United States. And I guess we should start with give us before we get into why you find yourself on a random podcast in sub-Saharan Africa. Let's talk about who you are, what you do, and how you got involved with Rocket League.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I appreciate the chance to be on today and talk. And yeah, I was describing this to my wife this morning that I'm going to be on a random podcast or randomly on a podcast from South Africa. But yeah, I'm in the US, always been here. I've been a big gaming nerd all my life, like probably most people my age range. So for context, I'm 32. And I work in the tech field professionally as my day job. But what got me invested into Rocket League was in late 2015. Knew the game came out, saw the game came out, and was trying to find a reason to buy it. And actually, funny enough, I found there was a promotion on Steam that you could buy a Steam controller
Oh yeah.
for $40, and Rocket League came with it. And I found the Steam controller interesting and wanted a reason to buy it, and so that's how I've picked it up. And I've had it since then. And I've got, I think on Steam last I checked, close to 2,800 hours into Rocket League. Um, so
And
yeah, that's
and have you
kind of where I've gotten to now.
have you done anything exciting in Rocket League? I mean, let's talk peak ranks and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'm definitely probably the textbook definition of somebody who's just on the fence of trying to take my rank seriously, but also having to take life seriously. Like being an adult and having responsibilities definitely does matter and play into that. Um, as my Twitch name mentions, my main mode that I played was Rumble, obviously. But in
Okay.
vanilla 2s and 3s, I generally sort of leveled off at the C1, C2 range. But in Rumble, where I really dove into it, I actually nearly hit SSL at one point and was about 80 MMR off the global top 100. So
Wow.
Rumble was the mode that when I got hooked, like I dove into Rumble when it came out.
I have to.
Jeez.
I'm so slow. I'm so slow that I've only now figured out that your name is because you play Rumble.
There you go. There you go.
Hey, Greybeard, you can join the club with me, man.
That's amazing. Okay. All right. And then tell us how you now find yourself here in on this podcast. I mean, I'm trying to remember when I first connected up with you. It feels
Yeah.
like it was about 8 months ago, but it was probably longer ago than that. But suddenly you were a person on Twitter and then Discord and then Twitch.
Mhm.
And so, how did that happen?
Yeah. So I was thinking on that too, and it probably was about a year ago that actually maybe a year, yeah, a little over a year ago, where I finally got you followed on Twitter and just started interacting and seeing some of your posts about the things that were happening in SSA. And at the time, I think you started doing one show matches again, as well as just doing the ACGL streams for the SSA region. Um, Back in that'd be what, season 24, RLCS 24. Um, and at that point, that's when I saw that you had a Discord server hopped in, and I hopped in there, and just started chatting with people. And I guess to back up to give you some more context as to what sort of gravitated me to following SSA as a region is I've been following RLCS since about it came out. Like I knew about the first World Championship when it first happened, but I didn't really purposefully watch it. I was just like, oh, hey, that's kind of cool. Top level Rocket League was pretty interesting. It's probably season 4 was the first time where I started noticing the league matches going on and making time for it. So did that for several years, right, as all the as the seasons came and went. And then Sam was added, and they went to their first World Championship, and I caught one of their regional streams just by, I think, by accident, and I saw how differently they played the game compared to how I see North American and European teams play. Like back then in season 7, so gosh, 5 or 6 years ago, Sam was all offense, triple flip reset, like anything you could imagine. There was no concept of defense in Sam at the time. And so for me, that was a pretty interesting approach, or pretty interesting thought that, okay, these guys in the South American continent are approaching this thing completely differently than how I would view it here in North America, or how I see that the European teams approach it. So then as RLCS expanded I think it was after 20, or as after RLCS X, where I saw that MENA, APAC, and SSA was added, at that point, I purposefully sort of tried to look at those regions and see, okay, what's MENA bringing to the table that's different? What's APAC bringing that's different? What's SSA bringing that's different? And what really got me hooked on SSA at first was the first World Championship you guys were at, where Orlando Pirates were there.
Oh, wow.
I started looking into who Orlando Pirates as an org was, because that's just a cool ass name, Orlando Pirates. Um, and I saw they were backed by a football club over there, and so I was like, oh, okay, like there's serious interest over here for this if they've got football teams buying in on it, because that was only just starting to happen, or maybe had just happened the year or two prior in EU with like FC Barcelona um, getting a Rocket League team. So that's what at the time really kind of got me to start looking at and seeing like, hey, what's SSA potentially doing different than everybody else in the world?
Okay.
Hectic.
And what is your what is your view as a complete outsider? What is your view of SSA and what's going on here? And of course, the main topic has always been the imports and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about it as an outsider who's taken an interest in the region? Yeah, give us your scope on that.
Yeah. I think you and I have very much have the same opinion on it, as we've agreed about on Twitter. But it's frustrating in one hand, but it's an opportunity in another. Um, the players that come over and are very vocal about or bring a negative energy to things, right, is obviously a detriment to everybody, and it's incredibly frustrating to see. Like, even if they just owned up to like, hey, we just want to play in a lower region because we've got a better shot at it, if they just openly admitted that at first versus trying to come up with some BS reason of we want to invest and we want to help improve. It's like, no, you don't. You just want to be able to hop on and play RL for 3 hours a weekend and get some easy cash. Which, if that's what you want to do, just say so. I'm still not really going to care for it, and I don't appreciate that. But at least you're honest with it. um, but yeah, the fact that there's no import restriction or any sort of rules like that is definitely frustrating. Um, Especially with sort of how I have this larger view of what RLCS could be. It's incredibly frustrating. Um, but at this point, yeah, I've accepted it. And if anything, for me, it's definitely gotten me to sort of double down and really start to care more about the teams with local players on them. As you know, Graybeard, I'm a big Hybo believer. Definitely believe those guys are going to run this year. But anybody, whether it be Limitless continuing their run, Decimate, Genesix, I know whichever roster Lankai's on, because I know he just made a roster change, I think. Essentially, just anybody on there with local teams from South Africa, or honestly, at this point, even just the continent of Africa. I'm like, okay, you got like, because the difference there is that the local players are like invested. They're committed to this, and this is something that they're giving their 100% into, where not all of the teams and players from EU, but I would probably say from my perspective, the majority are just phoning it in.
Yeah.
They're just going, okay, there's an obvious skill gap here. We can go over there, give it our 50%, and still walk away pretty easily. And I'm going to much rather root for somebody who's giving it 100% and is not able to succeed than somebody who is half-assing it and winning all the time.
Okay. So okay, well, I was going to ask a question around who your faves are and so on, but I think rather than that, I think what we're going to do is you might as well stick around with us because we're now going to get into the weeds of the qualifiers, and you can throw in your thoughts and opinions on players, on teams, and whatever as we go. So, Bromeo, with your working all weekend, and Sean with whatever it was you said you were doing, and occasionally passing by the stream, I hope you are deeply au fait with what happened this last weekend, and we can go and have a chat about it and talk. I mean, 100 teams, there or thereabouts, 100, 107, somewhere around there started. It was, maybe as a preface, we are in the agony. We've said that things are going to get more painful before they get better. We are in the pain, and everything we say and cover now, we go into it with that knowledge and understanding. We are in the time of pain, and it's kind of reflected in the number of SSA teams that were the percentage of SSA teams in this regional were slightly less as a percentage this time than they were last time, and as a percentage fewer making it into the top 32 and then into the top 16. So we'll live with that. But starting with you, Sean, your overall impressions of the weekend before we get into the deep details.
So I was trying to keep up my bets with everything. I saw a lot of different, like there was a couple upsets that happened. A couple teams that were there last weekend as opposed to this weekend. A couple surprises. Like I'm quite happy with Pony Nijitsu actually getting up there into the top 16 and stuff. As we mentioned earlier, which you reminded me, White Rabbit getting into the top 32, which is really cool. So a couple of our SSA teams actually showing improvement, especially coming into the second weekend where teams start to settle and understand how everybody starts to kind of play and all that stuff. I was kind of upset with Team Boney. I thought they would do better. But I guess unfortunate. But they did put up quite a fight in the one game that I did get to watch on your stream.
Yeah.
Although it's a watch party, you seem to bounce between the streams a
Yes,
lot.
exactly.
So it's like catch a little bit of this, catch a little bit of that. So the best we could watch, it was quite interesting weekend in my opinion.
Overall thoughts, Bromia?
From what I caught, it was bouncing a fair bit on your watch party and things like that. But there were some really, really good names coming through into the top 16. And obviously, your highball, they played incredibly well. You're going to see Cosmico and Limitless in because despite the increased competition that we're seeing now, they're playing incredibly good ball. And I actually want to take that as a positive because not only did they, stick around, but they did really, really well. So there were a couple of SSA on SSA knockouts,
Yeah.
which, didn't make me glad. But there's also a couple of faces that I would have hoped to see through to top 16 that I'm hoping can grow a bit. Bird being one of them. Unity unfortunately didn't pull their socks up for that one, and possibly Blair because it's a decent team, but unfortunately they didn't make it too far in the Swiss stage. So
And
I
those are kind of true victims of the new
yeah,
dispensation because teams like Unity, look at that roster, teams like Blair, that roster, Bird, they were guaranteed top 16 teams
yeah.
going into a Friday night. But so it is that, I guess, the top 8 bubble, I guess, of SSA that are struggling to advance. It's very crowded now. There's not a lot of room in the main event anymore.
And I think that's it gives a lot of credence to if you make top 32, if you make top 16, it shows what a good team you are because previously, with a person, GC1 teams were making top 12 and that didn't put much of a premium on making it that far. People just assumed that any team worth their salt was making top 8. That is not the case anymore. So you have to be truly good to earn it, and I think that elevates the achievement of what these teams currently are doing in this climate. And like I said, that just gives me a lot of hope.
Well,
And
let's
you're
have a
seeing specific results of that too, not in like a full team's individual performance, but you'll see it in an individual game. Like I think it was the first qualifier where Decimate beat, what was it, VK Salen's team, I think it
yes.
was. It's you'll see that's what I'm seeing as a positive right now with the full local teams is it might be it might be a rough event for them, but there will be one match that you can look at that and go, okay, progress was made in the past 2 weeks because, a month ago that would have been a completely different story. We're now, okay, we got a 3-2 win against these guys that were pretty tough, or even just starting to keep the series really competitive. That's I think something that the local guys can definitely take away from things right now is that it's going to be rough for the next year or so. Like you're not going to come in and just clean sweep all of the EU teams, but make it an effort that when you go up against them, that you give them a run for their money, and that it's not them being able to just clip all over you or make them work for it, right? Make them put in the effort that all of you are having to put in.
I mean, sorry, Gribbit, I'm going to cut you off quick. I mean, if you look at Highball, I mean, this is now their second weekend they're going into together. Fresh team. We were very excited about. Greybeard was very excited about that team coming in. And remember, we mentioned not long ago how Limitless was that first boss that we need to get through. Well, these SSA teams need to get through. And to see Highball now chip away at Limitless to come out with, I mean, they lost, but it was a 3-2 loss. So it was very close for them, especially. So it just shows this improvement. And they're not, it seems to me like they're not very scared Limitless anymore, which is cool.
Well, I think that's probably the the youngsters who lack the appropriate amount of fear, which is absolutely what we need. 100 or so teams started through the double elimination. There was a top 32. Then in the top 32, two Swiss brackets, 16 in Swiss A and 16 in Swiss B. The SSA teams, the numbers shook out like this. In A, there were 5 SSA teams. A total in the top 32, there were 12 SSA teams, and that's with our now fairly loose definition of what constitutes an SSA team. That includes our 2/3 rosters, it includes our 1/3 rosters. Only 12 SSA teams, and in Group A, 5 of the 16 teams only were SSA. So it was a little rough there, and this is kind of the Swiss bracket and how it went. Very oh, excuse me there. So it was kind of rough from the outset, and the Maestros, as you would expect, did fairly well. They did go 3-2 against Chris Colon, and I did find out that apparently Torres had a DC, and so they were 2v3 for a while, and then Harmonic had to come in for 2 games, and then so they had a bit of disruption there, and they almost dropped a series in the Swiss, but they did prevail, and they went 3-0 to qualify, and then Hay with Riz, who were top 4 in the last regional, so that was not unexpected. But of the SSA teams, only one SSA team made it out of the Swiss bracket, and that was, and huge shout out to them, Pony no Jitsu, very excited for them. They didn't make it to main event last time, but there we have Tishao Eagle, and then they have a French player on their squad as well, so that was a huge shout to them. It did include a reverse sweep of White Rabbit Gaming along the way.
Oh, that's rough. I I can only imagine. The reverse sweep is one of those events in Rocket League where if you do it, it's great, but for the team that's losing, it's hard to recover from. So I hope White Rabbits regains. But well done to Pony no Jitsu.
We have to go back one thing a little bit, because we didn't even mention load shedding. We had load shedding for the first time in 10 months on Friday and Saturday, so it affected the double elimination. And I know
we don't talk about it.
We have to talk about it. It's tough times.
No.
Old wood. Why do you talk about it?
Touch the wood.
So Goated Baguette were a victim of load shedding because they were in their final game. If they had won that series, they would have qualified for top 32.
Oh.
And I think they were 2, maybe 3 games in, and then Ram had power outage, and that was the end. They had to forfeit that last series, so they didn't go through. That was pretty brutal, and I don't know if there were other victims of it. White Rabbit Gaming played all weekend with their sub Marnie, who, to be fair, did really, really well for them. But I don't know if that was Galaxy was missing in action, and I don't know if that was a load shedding issue or just your classic Galaxy issues.
Galaxy issue. I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, he's prone to issues.
Well, I mean, look, we can consider ourselves pretty lucky. It was only, touch wood, 2 days of load shedding, but the fact that it's reared its head after so many months gives me a lot of PTSD. When the power went out for the first time at my house, I was like, oh no, I forgot what I do in this time. What do I do with my hands? It's weird.
Forgot how to function. I'm not going to.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how just frustrating that is when that does happen, especially this past weekend, like mid competition. I mean, especially if you're at that qualification match. Oh man, I'd have been so upset. Like I can't imagine going through that.
It's even worse when they don't really give you much time to prepare. So it's always like deciding how to get around this on the go. And I think, when did they announce the load shedding was happening?
Well,
On the
there was
Thursday?
there was an announcement. I think it was no, it wasn't. It was either late Thursday or early Friday, saying
Yeah.
there's a possibility of load shedding at short notice, and then 6 hours later we were in load shedding.
And stage 3 of all, stage 4.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. So White Rabbit did well. They didn't make they did better. Let's put it that way. They didn't make top 32 in the first regional, got into top 32, but then fell short. I think they went out in round 4. They went out. Pony no Jitsu going through, and then Omen Esports. Omen is Dukla's. That's a 1/3 roster, and yeah, they were disappointing. Where did they go out? I think also, yeah, they also went out in round 4. And who was the other SSA teams? Oh, Decimate. I'm feeling for them. They're such a good roster, such a good bunch of guys, but for the second time, they don't make main event. That's got to be a little tough for Wilu, for Zany. I mean, and Star, their EU player.
That is
Yeah.
rough, and unfortunately, they went up against some quality outfits. I mean, they took down Team Bonnie along the way, and they got an FFI Gold Diggers, but they lost to Maestros first game. That's always a hard knock, and then second they went down to Omen.
They should not have gone. That's the game they should not have lost.
It went to game 5 though, so it wasn't exactly close. But by the same token, they also went up against Cristobal Colon, which who ultimately did qualify. So it was a tough one. But by the same token, the quality of their outfit compared to those that did make it, you would agree that they probably should have made it.
What
I
happened
do.
with Gold Diggers there? Because I see they FF'd pretty much
Yeah,
everyone.
they just didn't pitch up. So they forfeited their whole way through. So there were, so that was that. And that's always a bit frustrating because it does mess with the bracket a little bit because things might have been different and whatever. It's a real ball ache when that happens. But I don't know what their story was, but they did not show up. And then big surprise on the EU side of things, top 4 team, and they did forfeit in the top 4 in the first regional. Dunno Chief going out in round 5 of Swiss, losing in that round to Vanguard, but having a bit of a rough run. So from top 4 to out.
Oof.
Yeah, it's definitely a shakeup. I mean, if anything, seeing having an EU heavy group, is definitely bad for the SSA teams that are in that group. But it then will also open up opportunities for upsets like these. So if anything, it'll be interesting to see how the playoffs sort of play out this coming weekend. And see maybe who rises to the occasion. I'll cross my fingers for Hybo. Maybe this is the chance today, get a breakthrough run. Let's see them get a top 4. But hey, I'll take as someone rooting for the local guys, I'll take a top EU team dropping out the Swiss round. That's fine with me.
And then Mustu Fluck, they're into the sweeps. They're either sweeping or getting swept, but they went through in round 4. So there you go. Coming out of Swiss Group A was Chris Colon, Celestial Vanguard, World of Tanks, Pony no Jitsu, mostly out of Reunion Island, but all out of France after a fashion. Mustu Fluck, Le Bosch, and Hayworth Riz, and of course the Maestros. And then over in Group B, which was out of the 8 teams, I beg your pardon, out of the 16 teams in Swiss B, 7 were SSA. So that was very loaded with SSA teams. And not to bury the lead on this one, of the 7, 5 made it out of Swiss to qualify for main event. So that is a staggeringly good performance. And
that's an incredible one.
Well, listen, led at the top there, you'll see the very first fixture you see there, Limitless against Highball. And Highball continued to surprise me. They just are looking better and better. They took 2 games off Limitless. In fact, the only 2 games that Limitless lost in Swiss was to Highball. It was glorious. And for a moment, I thought, are we going to see a tipping of the scale? And it came close. But to Limitless's credit, they came out swinging hard in that game 5.
Well, I mean, Hybo, if you're watching this, and I sincerely hope you are, carry on at this rate, and GB's probably going to get a tattoo of your team logo at some point.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, don't start threatening that. All that suggestion needs is one drunken night.
And we'll be there. We'll be there. I think Hybo, out of all of the teams we've seen so far, they're not even the dark horse. They just came out of nowhere, and they're showing these results. I mean, to take 2 games off Limitless, to force Limitless to a game 5, at the beginning of the weekend, I would not. I would have picked Cosmico maybe, but Hybo really showed up.
And listen, they made it hard for themselves in the end. They qualified for main event again in round 5. So going down to Limitless 2-3 in the first round. In the second round, they beat FC Familiarilo, I believe another Spanish team. They swept them there. And then in round 3, they went down to 77 blocks, unfortunately. 77 blocks, not making main event last time round. So going down 1-3 there. And then in round 4, beating the unemployed, making sure they remain unemployed. They swept them there. And then their best result was in round 5, taking out Crazy Time, who are not a bad roster at all. And they had lost to them earlier, I think, in the double elim or somewhere along the line, but sweeping them out. So fantastic performance again by Highball. And now it's up to them to go further than last time and make a top 8. But that remains to be seen if we can see that. That all went quiet.
I'm still believing, especially with Highbow's team comp of just skill steal, just being one of the OG sort of guard out of SSA, with the 2 young guys there, Ravi and having a brain fart. I feel bad now. Devour.
Yes.
Just the more experience they get, basically just every high stakes competitive match is going to benefit them. And they're just going to be put in a situation at some point where they catch one of these high level teams, maybe even a Limitless, catch them on a bad day while Highbow's feeling good. They're feeling good. And who knows, anything's possible. And I'm here for it.
I mean, when I was watching Greybeard's watch party, and I got to see some of the Highball gameplay, and from what I could see, they've got, even considering how good they are now, they've still got so much room for improvement. There's so much that they can work on to become better. So if they stick together and if they tough it out together throughout this entire season, I would be terrified of whatever the product is of all their hard work will be coming towards the end of this RLCS season. Like I think they're just going to impress us every single weekend, to be honest with you, Greybeard.
Ravi, Devour, T-Shao, Eagle. These are players that are going to reinvent Rocket League in this region.
Big words. Big words.
No, absolutely, they are big words, and born a lot.
Somebody clips us right now.
and being born out of a little bit of hubris and a little bit of over optimism, but it is that lack of. They don't have the baggage that a lot of other SSA players who've been around for a long time have. They're just sort of fresh-eyed, woolly, and then in the case of Highball, being guided by the uncle skill steal it's just such a lethal combination. Great news is that in the 2-0 round, Limitless and Cosmico went through. So in that 2-0 round, 3 of the 4 teams there were SSA teams: Limitless, Cosmico, and Genesix. Limitless and Cosmico prevailing, so they qualified 3-0 through Swiss. And we have to talk about Genesix. I see Megaboom and Daps have been in chat already, but this team are determined for me to max out my medical aid.
I
They,
mean, like, I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
bro,
That's
they were,
that game 5
but they were 2 and
on round
0.
5.
They were 2 and 0. They go down to Cosmico, and then in the next round they were. Who did they play again? They did.
This is Insanity, I think, in round
It was
4.
Insanity, and that went to 5. And my big fear was that if they lost there in the next round, they'd be teamed up against Highball or, another SSA team, and that would have just been so horrendous. But so they gave us a heart attack there, and then they go to round 5. Thank goodness they were teamed against Ball Eater, and prevailed there. But they definitely like to take the long way around, and I have to say, Daps had a really, really, to use a South Africanism to its full extent, he had a cuck day yesterday. He DM'd me the details. He did not have a good day, but he showed up in kind of emotionally spent and put in a shift. And as much of a heart attack as it was, they did prevail in a game 5 thriller. I'm just grateful it didn't go to overtime. It came close to, and I would not have survived in overtime, but they did it. And huge congratulations to Genesix for making it through. But then also in that round 5, the 5 SSA teams that went through, you had Cosmico and Limitless going through 3-0, and the remaining 3 taking it to round 5 of Swiss. Chocoranilla, Genesix, and Highball all making it into main event through round 5.
I mean, that was, it's sad because unfortunately Death Cloud being sent out by Chocoranilla and Ball Eater being sent packing by Genesix, which was fantastic to see. And then Hybo obviously sending out Crazy Time. So look, it was a weekend of, good results. And I think, and one team we haven't mentioned at length is 77 Blocks, and I know we don't like import teams, but last season I really enjoyed watching 77 Blocks play. I'll say that flat out. It might be controversial, it might be a hot take, but I like the way that they played Rocket League because it was completely different to what I'd seen before. And I think by playing against them, we are being exposed to different styles of Rocket League. So that German team, as much as I would have preferred to see a local team like Death Cloud making it in, I'm not terribly torn up that we're going to get to watch 77 Blocks play.
And congratulations to them for making it through, because they didn't make Regional 1. The other big EU team from last season is Astronic, and they fall short for their second regional. Second time they haven't made it through, and I think they went out round 4 of Swiss. So they're having a massive struggle right now with the growth of competition, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And I'd sort of agree with Bromeo there that, seeing 77 Blocks or any of these other EU teams that don't have a lot of the baggage coming with them, that they're just like, hey, we're here and we're playing. They're not stirring up a big fuss. It's interesting seeing them succeed too, I suppose. I'm not as opposed to seeing like 77 Blocks make it. Is like, okay. Because at least in my mind, then that gives like a Hybo or a Genesix or somebody like a chance. Like, okay, here you go. Here's a chance for top 8. Okay, let's try to cut your teeth on this and see, like, get some good experience and have a chance to break through.
Now, the 3 SSA teams that I'm hoping we'll see more of, and that will do better in the third regional. Death Cloud Esport, they did better. They didn't make top 32 last time. They made top 32, but struggled in Swiss. Checkers 50-50, which is the meme name of the entire tournament. Rumble Truck's got no idea why that's even funny, but it's hilarious.
But no clue.
Yeah, and you know what? By the time I explain it, it's kind of boring. But but just know it's a really, really funny name. But they made top 32, but struggled a lot. They were Rise Esport in Regional 1, and they were a surprise to me. Performed really nicely, but fell short. And they were 0-9 out of Swiss. So I'm hoping we see something better from them. And then, of course, WRG, who did better by making top 32, but also crashed out of Swiss. So hopefully we can see more from them. And I see Tristan has slid into chat. So so I think I have to mention Chocoranilla because they did clip me when they were playing Death Cloud Esport, whom they swept, it has to be said. And in my mind, Death Cloud should have taken that game. And I said as much on stream. And the social media team, whoever that might be, and I'm sure it's one of the players, clipped that and posted it out on Twitter and shamed me out there. So Tristan, I see you there. I apologize. You guys did very well qualifying again for
It
main
was
event.
it was a tactical play, Greybeard.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Master's curse at its fullest.
Graves already told us that Highball is revolutionizing the game of Rocket League. That's going to be on Twitter later. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Please post it. I'll repost it.
Yeah, same.
So what this all means, 32 teams battling it out in Swiss was carved down to 16. 16 of those teams crashed out of Regional 2. 16 go through to the GSL bracket on Friday. And this is what those brackets are going to look like. This, of course, is not confirmed. This is a very complicated spreadsheets idea of what the matchups are going to be on Friday. So on Friday there will be 2 groups of 8 teams each, and they will face off in a GSL bracket. This is Group A, the expected first round matchups. Cosmico versus Genesix, so that's a Swiss rematch. Mustu Flak versus Pony no Jutsu. Hay with Riz against Chocoranilla. 77 blocks and Hybo, also a rematch. So I don't know, immediate thoughts on those matchups.
I can only tell you there's only 2 games there that will be interesting to watch. And that will be game 1 and game 4. The other 2, I think we kind of know the expected outcome from those 2.
Yeah, but you know what? I think we need to give P&J a little more credit with T-Shao and Eagle. Mustu Flak have not been all that. I mean, they came into this region swinging big from the genes, and their results have not reflected that. They're a good team, no doubt, but I do think they can be undone.
Fair enough.
I'll agree there, though, that Cosmico, Genesix, and 77 blocks and Hybo are definitely the 2 that I would watch. And yeah, Greybeard, I'd agree with you. Where the Mostufluk Pony Nujitsu match is kind of the sleeper one where if an upset's going to happen, my bet would probably be on that one. And it'd be, I don't know if it'd just be like a straight 3-0. Probably not that. It'd probably be just a 3-2 grind where Pony pulls out in a crazy game 5.
Or Masterflug pulls out in a game 5.
Yeah, or that too.
Very
Pony's
Chocoranilla,
just
but
close enough. Yeah.
A with Riz is quite a tough opponent to come up against, but you could surprise myself and the rest of us here and come out on top there. Maybe I expect a 3-0 from you guys.
I'm very cautious about dissing Chocoranilla 2 days in a row. So
I'm treading lightly, but maybe we need to piss them off so that they can go and show us up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. Well, there's our first group, first round matchups. Over in Group B, these are the expected first round matchups. Maestros versus Celestial Vanguard. Trifecta, who, by the way, are not actually Trifecta. First regional, they were 3 regions, EU, MENA, and SSA. They are now just MENA and EU. So they really should be called Bifecta. They will be playing Insanity, which are a new team to the region. I believe they're Portuguese. So they're playing their first main event in SSA. Limitless against World of Tanks, and Le Bosch also there. I think this is, I don't know. I think there might have been guys from PSV Eindhoven there. I'm not sure who Le Bosch are exactly, but they'll be playing Chris Colon. So Group B, a very EU or non-SSA heavy side. The only SSA teams there are Limitless.
Yeah.
So, of the 6 teams, of the 6 SSA teams, only 1 is in Group B. So, Limitless having to put in a massive shift over in Group B.
Yo, it's going to be a rough one because if this goes as your seeding here project, you'll see
Limitless.
Maestro's Vanguard. Maestros will take it. Trifecta and Sanity. That's going to be a good game. I think Trifecta will take it. So you will see Maestro's Trifecta in upper semis, and Maestro's probably taking it through to the upper bracket final. Then in the bottom of this, you've got Limitless, World of Tanks. Limitless should take it. Le Bosch, Chris Colon. I think Chris Colon takes it, and Limitless beats Chris Colon. So you're going to see, if our mathematics is correct and enough wood is being touched, in the upper bracket final, you will see Maestros versus Limitless. So I cannot see this going any other way than those two in the upper bracket final, and one of them will have the chance to do it again.
And that secures top 6, if I'm not mistaken, right?
If you make it through to the upper bracket final.
If you win the upper bracket final, I think you secure top 6.
I think you.
That sounds right.
I think that's right. I think that's right. Someone in chat will correct me. There's very clever people in chat, but I'm pretty sure.
if you win the upper bracket final, it puts you in the final.
It puts you in the it puts you in the top 6 of the playoff bracket.
Okay,
yeah.
got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
I can't remember. Wasn't there an instance where Limitless went up against Team Mobula early on in a bracket before?
Yes, it was because they weren't because of seeding. Mobula weren't seeded, so they had a low seeding and then landed up meeting Limitless early on. I have just remembered, we have not spoken about the big controversy over in the Swiss bracket, because there was oh my God, I can't believe we forgot to talk about this. I don't know how much is known, but there is a team, an EU team by the name of Brodas. You can see them. Brodas. So they were DQ'd. They were DQ'd because one of their squad had been perma-banned by Psyonix for DDoSing. And he circumnavigated the ban to play in SSA, and that got sniffed out by, as you can imagine. I got a message from Renshiro, who said, "Hey, listen, you need this guy's here." But I think that the admins were DM'd. There was an investigation, and boom, they were DQ'd out of Swiss. So EU doesn't send all of their best people, and the washed and the washed cheaters love to take their chances in SSA.
I think, that is one of the downsides of having a region like this. It's sort of like opening up the continent for all of the dregs of society, where they will find a new home and a clean slate. But unfortunately, history will chase you, or unless you're unknown goats and your team are just a bunch of assholes. But, I don't care. But I do think that we're going to see some good ones and some bad ones. I like the way that 77 Blocks have been playing. I liked the way that they conduct themselves.
Yes.
So I do think this region lends itself to two kinds of teams, either the really, really good ones or YMC. So I think there's no in between.
Well, YMC and their fanboys, and which is why Crazy Time crashing out was particularly satisfying, amongst others. And I have to reiterate, because we've just had one gargantuan dig at Europe. There are some amazing people coming out of Europe, and I want that known. And there's a few of them in chat. Sib is one of them. People like LDC, and now I'm under pressure to come up with all the names, but there are some stellar EU people who find themselves in this region and are making massive contributions. So don't let our antagonism toward the lower echelon of European society who come here to play be a reflection on what you guys do for this region.
I appreciate you for pulling that one back, GB. I was gonna leave it be.
No, listen, you gotta. I did finally get around to reading How to Win Friends and Influence People, and for those who care, I wrote and published a book 11 years
What?
ago, which and the name of that is How to Win. How to Win Influence and Friend People. There we go. It was a play on that book. So there you go. That was fun. And don't feel bad. And don't
Is
feel.
it still available? Can we still buy it? Where is this book?
I doubt you can. And
People
honestly, if you've never heard of it, it's quite okay because it was okay.
Man, okay, so I've known you for this long, but I didn't know that you wrote a book, and you're only dropping this on casually, unprovoked, in
Yeah.
the middle of just saying. So
in the middle of a random podcast.
there needs to be a follow-up. I'm going to do a book review on this book.
Oh my
and,
No, you
God.
need,
we're
you
gonna
need to
talk
like
about it.
post that link for his book now.
I want the Amazon page. I want the Takealot
Bar my
page.
book. I doubt it's still available, but I will check for you. Okay, let's move on. So we've done predictions for Greybeard, the Bromeo, and Falcon for who we think. There, the Furious Wave says he found it. He tried to post a link, but you can't post links in my chat. So good luck.
Oh wow.
So we've done predictions of who we think is going to make top 8. And Armonic, no, these are not confirmed. This is the very clever spreadsheet done by Cody that has worked this out. But the spreadsheet for Regional 1 was bang on correct. So I'm pretty sure that this is how it's going to end up. So these are our predictions for the top 8 going into Saturday.
In no particular order.
In no particular order. So,
What on earth is going on there?
well,
You broke it.
No. I've got Force Dark Mode on. So, if you just make column 1 nice and small, it'll be fine. So, my prediction for the top 8 are Cosmico, Genesix, Haywith Riz, Highball, Maestros, Vanguard, Limitless, and Chris Colon. So there's me being full of optimism that we are going to have a 50-50 SSA split. And Falcon's got two columns of predictions, but and so is the Bromeo.
I don't know why it is showing like that. Because
Don't worry about it. It is what
It was a last-minute addition, and
this was being done while we were live, so there we go. Considering that, it's not too bad. Falcon says Limitless, Mitros, Cosmico, Must Do Fluck. So I don't have Must Do Fluck going through. Haywith Riz, Genesix, 77 blocks, and Highball. So where do we differ? I didn't have 77 blocks, and I didn't have Must Do. So who have you got instead? Who've I got instead?
I
had Vanguard and Chris
I can refresh it. I'm sure I can refresh it. Oh, there we go.
Wow.
Okay, now it looks even interesting. And now it looks even more interesting.
Yeah.
What am I looking at?
Yeah, no, we don't know what we're looking at anymore.
I tell you what, I can send you a quick picture and then you could just post that up because absolutely Velt. There's no ways.
Yeah, well, you know what? We go with what we got. And the Bromeo's got Highball, Limitless, Cosmico, Maestros, Genesix, Haywith Riz, Must Do Fluck, and Chris Colon. So how many SSA have you got? You got 1, 2, 3. Oh, you couldn't bring yourself to do the Highball.
No. Highball at the
Highball's right at the top. Okay,
Cosmico
so we've all
Genesix.
So we've
all. I was very tempted to put in Pony and no Jitsu given their performance over the weekend. I just feel that if I'm being true to myself and if I want to stand any chance at winning any predictions, I think this is going to be a better reflection of our...
So what are you saying, Bromeo?
I'm not saying
Hey,
anything. I'm not going
we
to get
need
clipped
to we
today.
need a we need a clip here, Bromio. What are you saying about poor Pony no Jitsu?
I'm not saying. I think I think this top 16 is going to be incredibly tough.
Mm.
And I think that's an achievement in of itself. So there is
Yes.
there's no sledging here. If you made it to top 16, you're better than countless other teams who've
Well,
already
not
tried their luck.
countless. If you've made
Well, yeah,
top
I mean,
six,
we
if you
count
made
them,
top
but
16,
who
you're
has
better
tried?
than approximately 90 other teams.
If you want to put percentages on that, it means that you're in the top 20% already. So don't quote me on that. It's probably close to
Yeah.
that. But I think that Genesix has their work cut out for them, but I
Yeah.
think they can do it.
Mm.
I think Hyber was impressed enough that we should expect a top 8 from them. Sorry, this is not meant to give you pressure, but we've seen what you can do now. So make us proud. Limitless, Maestros, Hey with Riz. I have no doubt that they're going to perform well. Must do Fluck and Cristobal Colon. I'm not so sure, but they have shown that they are very dangerous. So for me, this is a list with a bit of heart and hope, but also with a couple scary names on it. So I don't think it's going to be too far off.
So
Yeah,
Rumble
well, that
Truck.
was me.
So Rumble Truck as the maybe the slightly less biased outsider. What do you think of our 4 SSA team prediction for the top 8?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I had to phone my wife to try to get a pair of glasses to read all of this, but but no, I mean, if I had to pick a list, I probably would say Bromeo's probably is the closest one that I would do. There's a couple of those like Cristobal Colon, Mostafluck, um, that I could probably be convinced to swap those out with maybe honestly, maybe a pony Nujitsu kind of going on a bit of a run out of nowhere, or something like that. But I think your Limitless, Cosmico, Maestro, Genesix, Hey with Riz, like the top like five of the 8 is probably pretty set in stone unless something really crazy happens and they have an off day. It's the final 2 slots, maybe 3 slots that is kind of up in the air, and that's where I think. If the groups do play out fairly well and there is an SSA heavy group on one side, that's really a chance for like one of the local teams to you know stand in that like high pressure moment and like be able to exceed. Or if anything, they get put in that moment of like, all right, we've got this game and we're making top 8 if we win. And if they come just short of it, that they've encountered that situation one time, and if they get hit with it again, they can take the experience from this go around and say, okay, we know what we did wrong last time, we know what improvements we've made, we're going to hit this one different and try to break through.
And if you're joining the stream late, the person at the bottom there on our panel is Rumble Truck, who is, as a catch-all description, is a random SSA fan out of North America. Someone who's sort of become very interested in SSA, and I wanted him to come on and talk about his experience as someone completely not from the region who's become invested in the region. So there we go.
And random is quite literal because I don't even work in esports. I don't even aspire to work in the esports industry. I literally just love watching this stuff, specifically Rocket League. So yeah.
I mean, I feel like you haven't had a question that's put you on the spot yet. So I'm going to ask you, if you
Go for
could
it.
get an esports jersey from any of the sub-Saharan African teams right now, which team would it be, and why is it Cosmico?
Why is it Cosmico? I mean, I think I saw the Cosmico jerseys. Were they at the VS Gaming Land you guys had a couple,
Yes.
like 6 or so months ago? I
Yes.
think I saw pictures of those online, and like sort of that black, dark purple kind of design there is honestly pretty sweet. And so like Cosmico, I would probably definitely do that one. I've tried to get a limitless one every time they do their giveaways on Twitter, and I've had zero luck. Or honestly, I'd be tempted to get just a white T-shirt and just write Hybo on it. I'm in their camp well enough that like I'll do that front and the back, just Hybo, and just walk around wearing that.
Do you know how cool it would be is if they actually sublimated that onto an esports jersey? I would buy it.
Yeah.
would.
Oh, totally.
And take that all day, every day. Okay, so we did panel predictions. That brings us to 1v1 show matches. We have show matches on my channel every Wednesday night, and with a 1,000 Rand prize pool, sponsored by Virtuoso. Also, similar to you, Rumble Truck, also a random North American who discovered SSA Rocket League, wants to support the region, and has sponsored a 1,000 Rand prize pool for, it'll be by the end of it, 8 weeks. So that's like 8,000 Rand that he's thrown in for prize pool. So big shout out to him. And the format for that is we have 3 best of 5 show matches. Anybody who wants to participate in that, you got to get in my Discord, give yourself the 1v1 role. I then ask who's available, and out of the available people, we find the best matchups, and then we go. And for this coming week, well, I have to give the results. The results from last week, the winners were Mercury, Dre, and Wee Casper were our 1v1 show match champions from last Wednesday. And then the matchups that'll be coming up in 2 days' time, day after tomorrow, will be Sethi versus The Truth, Divarate. Big hero out of RSC, and he participated in, he had a team in RLCS this weekend. Didn't make it out of W Limbs, but it was great to see him there. Jeff versus Willant. And then the one, I think this is going to be huge, Ravi versus T-Shao. Both of them are previous show match winners from weeks past. So that, I think, is going to be a titanic matchup coming up on Wednesday. So looking out for that. Then VS Gaming. VS Gaming. The VS Gaming season has not yet kicked off. I was very hopeful that it would all be announced and signups would open by the end of January. We're currently waiting. It's in what do we call that? Corporate approval hell, when you've got one very big sponsor and they are reluctant to hand out. It's corporate and it's bureaucratic, but nothing's been approved yet, so we are waiting for the posting of the rule set, the layout for the season, the prize pools, all of that. So hopefully that will be soon, and pretty much every week. There are 2 things, I think, at the start of every week. The first is, will VS Gaming get underway this week? And will I finally reach a point where I've had enough of Rocket League and I can go and do something else with my life? And so far, each week when it ends, I go, not this week, maybe next. And that's where we are with VS Gaming right now, but hopefully that'll come to pass very soon. But there is something pretty cool. ACGL, and if you've been following them on Twitter, they've gone through a kind of restructuring of everything they do and how they're going to go about supporting local esports with their tournaments, their LANs, their seasons, all of that sort of thing. And there's a lot to it, and I don't understand a lot of it, but they did announce today a 10,000 Rand Rocket League ladder. And basically how that works is, and it's open right now. You get yourself a team, you register on ACGL, and you start a challenge. You say, okay, I want to. We're going to have a best of 5 challenge or a best of 3, whatever. Another team accepts that, you play, and there are points for winning, lose points for losing. There's MMR and all that sort of thing. And then the top teams at the end of the season, and it ends on the 28th of March. So there's approximately about 8 weeks of this where you can play every day using on the ACGL website, and then there's going to be a 10,000 Rand tournament. And first prize is 5,000 Rand, second prize 3,000 Rand, third place gets 2,000 Rand. This is ideal for your sort of bubble teams. So if we were just looking at SSA teams, sort of around probably your top 16 and down, this is perfect. People who want to get experience playing in a competitive environment where there is some actual cash and something important on the line, get involved in this and tell as many people as possible. This is the ideal place to scoop up the thousands of players there are in Rocket League that aren't part of anything right now. This is something they can be a part of and go and do. So I think this is such an incredible initiative. So get going with that ASAP. That is open right now. So if you're not following ACGL on Twitter, it was announced today with all the links there. So go and check that out. So that's on the local scene, very important. And I think we're coming to, we now get to birthdays. And what happens with birthdays is I go and check anyone who's in and around SSA who's had a birthday in the past week, and we just give it a little bit of a mention here. Last week, there were no SSA birthdays, which was tragic. And this week, only one. But that birthday is a legend. And that legend is Lackstar. So Lackstar on the 29th of January turned 22 years old. So Lackstar, to you from us, happy birthday. Of course, now the Unity coach, and you got big work to do with your squad there. Eben Fenter, I noticed a chat from you earlier, and which I meant to bring up at the time, and I forgot, but now you've reminded me. Eben Fenter said he was keen on managing a team. And if you are keen on that and would like to get involved with that, get in touch with me on Discord. Let's see if we can find you a team to manage.
Check on Sparky Cracks org. They've got like a shitload of teams there.
Yeah.
No. That's not Sparky Cracks. That's
Zen and Esports.
Man, why am I being such a dick right now with my memory? I can't think of it, but Silver.
Oh, Silver.
No, I'm not
yes.
talking about. He wants to manage a team, so I'm suggesting.
Oh, right. So I'm just not listening.
Zenon has a lot of RLCS teams.
Yeah.
No, it's not you.
And there we go, gents. I think that brings us to the end, unless there is something important that we've missed. But I think we've gotten all the big and important news for the week caught up.
I'm also trying to think. I think we got everything. We spoke about RLCS. We spoke to Rumble Truck here. We went over some birthdays. We mentioned the ACGL ladder. And there wasn't any fighting in chat. There isn't any big beef that we need to go over.
Makes me feel like we're not doing our job.
Yeah, chat.
The high school leagues registrations are closing soon, like within the next 2 weeks. So
Hold
that
on.
was probably
Who? ACGLs?
ACGL. I don't know about ACGLs. I'll have to double check that, but I know VS their registration closed. I think on the 12th.
Did they even open? I just had VS Gaming in a big question mark. I didn't even know it was open for registration.
High school league, I believe, was open. Yes, I'm not too entirely sure about the Masters League. Essentially, it was just the CS:GO that was.
So this is supposed to be a news podcast, and as news, we're failing horribly when it comes to VS High School. So
yes. So the VS High School, their registration page is open. Registration for both leagues closed on the 12th of February.
12th of February? That's like 9 days.
It's very close, yes.
I saw Yakals was in chat earlier. Yakals, get in touch with me. We need to get you on the podcast next week. You got to talk about what's going on with VS High Schools. I know ACGL have just released their rule set or their rule book around their high school league. So we are going to get Yakals onto the podcast, and he's going to give us all the news about High School Rocket League and what that looks like for 2025 and how everyone can participate in that. But we want to make that huge as possible. And that does then bring us to the end. So Wednesday night will be the 1v1 show matches right here on this channel. Then Friday night, the GSL bracket, I will be watch partying all the team streams, all the chaos that comes with the bracket. So come and hang, go and watch all the team streams. Come and support SSA. Let's see if we can get 50% SSA teams into the top 8. That would be a banger. So from myself, Greybeard, the Bromeo, S. Falcon, and our special guest for the night, or for the afternoon for you, Rumble Truck, thank you for coming thanks for coming to hang and spending some time with us. And we look forward to seeing you being even more involved in SSA.
Yep, I appreciate you having me. This was a blast.
All right. Peace.